to the equipment. He also actually pinpointed what HVAC actually stands for. As in H, an acronym, the HVAC itself is an acronym that H stands for heating, then V stands for ventilations, and the A there stands for air condition. Air, why the C stands for air condition. And one of that thing I also learned from the last class too, he actually pinpointed how the 4 basic air conditioning system, where you have 2C and 2E. One of the C there is the compressor, the condenser, the second C, the expansion valve as one of the E, and the last E there as the evaporator. And that these are the basic components of any AC system. And actually expatiate on each of them, what their respective functions. I talked about the compressor as a component. It's a component that compresses refrigerant gas and circulates it through the system. If you pointed also the condenser too, that locate outside the building, which cool the high pressures too. The expansion valve too, the same thing too. You also make point as regards to the valve, reduces the pressures of the refrigerant liquid, allowing it to expand and to cool before it enters the evaporator oil. The evaporator too, the evaporator coil, which also located in the building too, has its own role of functions. That the evaporator coil absorbs the heat from the indoor air and cooling it down as the refrigerant evaporator into a gas. And many more things. He actually pinpointed some types of the AC. He actually cleared us about we have the ducted one and the not ducted type.
Yeah.
Right, the not ducted one, the window AC that I would normally see, the floor mounted AC, the ceiling mounted, and the ducted one, the chiller, the fan cooling unit. And again, to the water cooling, he actually expatiated on all these types of AC too, and many more things. And another thing too, he also make us to understand in a situation whereby you want to install an HVAC, there are certain principles, certain factors that we need to put in place. Number one, for you to install an HVAC in a building, first of all, evaluate the building, assessing the place, check what that is involved. He actually make us to understand the size and the capacity of such kind of HVAC that can cover such areas, the efficiency and the brand, the type we should use in such kind of areas, because there are different areas that this AC can actually function. And he actually make us to also understand that this HVAC, basically, majorly, they are really used in the industry areas. And you also make us to also understand the possible causes that some HVAC that fails. And some of them are poor installations. That in installing this HVAC, competency is a key. That anyone who does not know how to install it, there's no need going for such, because if you saw any HVAC system starting having problems, that would be really lost to such kind of organization. And some of the possible cause of HVAC failures, if you pointed, was poor design, then under design, poor duct installations, poor maintenance culture too, and many more that he actually be pointed to. I think, and he actually make us to understand to troubleshoot some of these AC that, especially the types we have at home. Some AC that we have at home that sometimes some of our ACs that we're having problem at home. We don't know what is the problem, but that class, it was able to clarify some certain basic areas of some troubleshooting that we can be able to carry out without even calling anybody. And by that, I actually learned a lot that with such kind of lecture that actually impacted on us. At least sometimes when I see some of those challenges, I actually look at it as if it's a big deal. But with that class, many that we actually cleared, and I actually appreciate had the facility to actually taught us.
Wow.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks so much, Mr. Sunday. You really buttressed and also expatiated as per what you learned.
Yeah,
I know
welcome,
we
sir.
learned a lot, so yeah, yeah. It's that's why this program itself it's an eye opener because, for instance, now you're having AC leakage, water is dripping from the indoor unit, and you have to now need to go and call a vendor just to rectify that. But with classes and course models like the AC maintenance, you can see it's just a little problem. Instead of you spending much in your operational costs, it's just something you could do or you can instruct a technician if you have one to rectify such issue. It could be blockage of the drain line, it could be the filter that is blocked. So I'm sure you guys learned a lot from last class, and Mr. Sunday really made us
Yeah,
understand
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah,
yeah, we
yeah, yeah,
truly did it. So
yeah,
so thank you very much. I would want to go straight into today's course model because of it's gonna also be um, a class that would surely gain every course model in this program. You would surely get not just one or two, but you always get enough of experiences because of we're equipping ourselves not just uh, uh, theoretical based, but also practical experiences we have on site. What are the solutions, and on subsequent issues, we're able to resolve them and all. So, thank you very much. I would like to introduce myself once again, and as other joins in, my name is Udwak Udo, and I'll be taking today's class on design, build, and commissioning. So, I would like to share my screen. So, please, should you see my shared screen with the course material, just kindly let me know, please. Okay. All right. I think my screen is up now.
Yes.
All right. All right. Thank you very much. So we'll be going down straight to design, build, and commissioning. Basically, this course is going to equip us on how we can be operationally ready on site. We'll be able to understand what operational readiness is as facilities managers. We'll be diving more into the building systems as per the development cycle, and we'll be able to see how we can improve our skills in facility management, on how we can improve our skills in communication, and also how we can improve our skill in processes. I know date back we've always understood facility management in a traditional way, which had to do with just structure, maintenance, repairs. But system is changing because of the narrative is making every built industry professional to understand facilities management goes beyond just the building structure. The introduction to facility management have made us understand that it is the integration of the people, the place, the process, and also technology. So in this course module, we've seen how we could integrate those four metrics into play, and that's why it's good for us to see what we could get from it as per our operations on site. So this is actually my profile, and I'm an industrial maintenance engineer by qualification, but I'm also fully into facilities management. Part of my core competencies are also in QHSC and fire safety consultancy. So, and more of operations. As facilities managers, we need to be equipped in five core skills. That's I try to abbreviate it into the ABOTS: administrative, business skill, operation skill, technical skill, and sustainability skill. We need to um, follow the norm on how things are changing, how generational wealth and growth are changing into green, as per how we could be sustainable in our processes. So it's good for us to have those five core skills. If we manage that into our business, then we'll be able to see how we could always affect our operational costs, and also how we could always do our job in a seamless way too. So design, build, and commission is a critical component of facility management because of it helps operations, maintenance, projects, constructions, and every other aspect that we could face in our site. It helps with strategy that could help us progress from the initial stage right up to the handover. I know possibly we will not have full understanding about project management, but here is like a subtract on how we could understand project management, yet on a grounder scale, because of it's more than just project management. Because project management ends at the handover stage and maybe uh, uh, when maintenance comes in. But as facilities management, it goes beyond that years the project undergoes. It's more like 10 to 50 years. So as facilities managers, we would be able to understand how we can continuously manage that building to meet the minimum standard and achieve a greater height when we manage our processes. And also we learn a lot of things in this course module. So should you have any questions, please always feel free to ask at the end of the class. Just take note of the questions. There's some questions that could come to mind on uh, issues not related to this particular course, but kind of a correlation on uh, understanding about it. Please always feel free to ask those questions. This class is more like a business class. Yes, it's more like a business class. That's why it's a master's class, wherein we put in into different options for us to really equip ourselves in every area we find our dealings with. So regardless of our industry, we have some could be in residential, commercial, some could also be in industrial settings. So any questions you have, please always feel free to ask. We'll discuss it together, and I'm sure we also have professionals too in the class that could also contribute to it. So we'll be talking more about operational readiness program. We're talking more about the development cycle. We'll be talking about the difference between testing and commission. I know most times we've always seen they go hand in hand as by okay, we need to test and commission uh, all in one straight line. But we'll be able to see the difference between testing and commission and how we can be effective with our handover whenever a project is completed, a repair work or something ad hoc jobs. How can we effectively hand over such projects for continuity purpose? So we'll also look that soon. So we'll be going straight to the operational readiness program, and that would lead us into this cycle. It's called the development cycle. I know some of us who have a little bit of knowledge in project management. We have those 5 stages of project management, where it starts from the initial stage down to when the completion is being done. But now we are taking it to another level for us to better integrate facility management into those processes, and that's when we have the development cycle. It always starts with the planning. As facilities managers, our main goal is to provide solutions for the end users. We are in the site and we see that the processes is not going well, and there's always issues, there's escalations, and literally not because we want that to happen, but something that happened earlier, right from the ground stage, where probably during the construction, and they had handed over the project to us, which has been completed, and now we're running the facility. So there's loopholes that are causing issues with our processes, with our operations. And you're thinking of what can I do to solve this problem? So there are always issues on site. There are always traditional ways, that is as per manual ways things are done. But you're trying to automate the system because technology is going far, and the most built systems are always automated. So when issues arises and there are needs for it to be resolved, that's when the planning begins. It always starts with one thing. It always starts with an idea. These ideas are things that keep things going because of it's raw. It's not as if it's something already into play. It's just an idea coming up. So throughout this discussion, I'll be using a particular scenario so that we'll basically know what we're talking about. And there are different scenarios, but I just want to pick one. For instance, a pumping system. I know we all have pumping machine in our houses, as per regardless of the horsepower, and most ones in our houses, apart from the ones in some commercial buildings, are always automated. But we also have in our houses, the residentials at times are always manual, in which we have to go and turn it on when it goes off. When the water is filled up, we turn it on. But over time, we're seeing this as a challenge. We're seeing a challenge to the security guys on site. We're seeing it as a challenge as per the environmental hazard, because over time, when there's excess flow of water in that particular area, we can see some greenish algae coming up and some growth that it's not always pleasant to the eyes. In fact, that's an hazard on its own. It's not environmental friendly. So we're thinking of, what can I do to resolve this problem? At that point, ideas are coming in. You're having a particular objective in mind. Should it be a project? You could say it's a project briefing, trying to explain yourself what you really want to achieve. What is the problem? What is the root cause? How can we solve this? What were the consequences, and how can we advance and, if possible, as per the hierarchy of control, to eliminate such problems? So at that point, you're planning. Ideas are being brought in together, and you're thinking what we really want. What can we really do? As you're thinking of it, cost implications is also attached to, because of it's finance that we need to run such projects. So you're thinking of, what is our budget? What is the cash at hand? If I'm to undergo this project, will it affect my capex for next year? And also for me to also state some other issues I'm having on site. So you're thinking of the aim, the objective, you're thinking of the briefing as per presentation, you're thinking of your budget. All this time, you are a planning in progress. So it starts with that. It starts with the planning stage. Then after you've achieved that, then you could now try to visualize these ideas you're bringing up. And that's when you now go over to the design stage. The design stage is a bit bulky, because at this point, a lot of concepts will be added to it. At times, we could always be in a room, and probably the stakeholders or the board of directors would want to initiate a project, and they believe that in-house they could always get it right. They always fail to do something. They always fail to bring in a consultant, a professional in the industry, a licensed and registered professional, for them to consult and get a cheaper professional solution. There are some solutions that are cheap, but if they are not consulted into it, it becomes bogus, as per the huge cost coming from it. Because of over time, there will be issues, there will be problem, and the money you're trying to save, you're now expediting it in 3 to 6 months because of lack of proper decision making and also consultancy. So as facilities managers, we should always think of, how can I make a process work? I don't have the full idea and the whole solution at hand. So what do I need to do? First is always to get a consultant, a trusted consultant. That's why at times we have technicians on site, we have technicians around that we can always call within a twinkling of an eye, they're always on site. Why? Because of that trust. So it's always good for us to have a trusted consultant that would always lead us to something great. And at this stage, it's always good for us to understand that this idea would need to be visualized, wherein the raw data will be visualized into a proper project docket for effective use. At this point, then we'll have to bring in design guys for the drawing, and a lot of things will be generated. We have the RFQ, uh, the request for proposal, the request for quotations. The POQ will be into place, because that's what to fast track and also align the costs as per the project, the budget, and over time, if it's aligning in what it is. Because at times, variations are always there in projects, and if you are not fast tracking or trying to streamline how expenses are made, it becomes a problem when decision makings, whenever there's an increase in cost of materials, and there's always a back and forth as well if they should approve such change or if they should approve such variation. So all these documents are key during the design stage, where they need to send in documents for vendors to fill their technical and commercial to meet with the budget at hand. Drawings will be provided, the mechanical drawing, the electrical drawings, the structural drawings, just to visualize the ideas. So now drawings are submitted as per the overhead tank, the electrical panel, how it will be designed, the components in there, the mechanical structures, the plumbing, there should be anything attached to it, also the connection of the float switch. So all these drawings and designs are what are always met on this stage of the development cycle. Because of it helps streamline what was intended for, and if they are really achieving such goals. At times, to during design stage, it depends on the project. Licenses from state government, from federal government are also issued. So all these things are things we bring in together to make sure that that particular action is being actualized. So, for instance, now we have drafted the RFQ for vendors to quote in, and they've sent it. Then, after thorough um checks, you've come to understand that okay, well, out of like 3 to 5 vendors, one seems to be okay, both technically. The commercial is a bit wild, but you try to negotiate. You know, as facilities manager, will negotiate to meet up with what we really want, and it's fine by it. It's a win-win for both parties, and a contract document is generated to really sign that yes, you've awarded this contract to this particular vendor. All these are things we need as facilities managers during the design stage of the development cycle. We need to try to get in approved licenses. We need to try and get in licenses of those vendors. We need to try and get in the BOQ to know that this is the cost for each line materials, and if that is being followed with specifications. We need to always deal with specifications whenever we are trying to actualize what we really want, because of this specification is what really leads to um, why we really need to get that into place. So specification is always key as facilities manager, so that if we are replacing a particular asset, we need to meet up that specification, and it's always good too in our decision making too. So at that point of the design, all these things are being put into play for us to actualize and visualize what we really want. So we've got the ideas, we visualize them, and we've agreed that this is what we want. The as-built drawing is there. We've seen this is what we want. Over time, during the next stage, then we can now see that project commences and will go into full construction. During construction, it's always good for us to know that there could be variations, there could be change, right? But as those change occurs, we should always update those drawings that were previously provided. We should always update them. We should try and seek approval for management before those change occurs, and also see that if that change is also actualizing what we really want. For instance, now we talked about a water system which we need to pump water from the ground down to the overhead tank, and there's possibly issues with the design. Issues like timeline in which the automatic system cut off whenever the float reaches a particular level. It works, but it takes time before they don't want overflow from the overhead tank. So that's an issue already. So and they need to also advance such issues. So there could be change of okay, instead of it to be like probably like 1 foot deep into the tank, okay, let's raise it up a little to like maybe 6 inches. So these are changes during construction that or during project management that will need to be documented, approved, and if it really meets the intended standard. So during the construction, there are so many managements involved. We have the safety management, because of during construction, safety too is key. Whatever we are doing in this life, safety is always key, and we are also safety managers too, irrespective of our site. So we need to also have skills in procurement management, finance management, human resources or human capital management too is always key, because of we're dealing with workers, we're dealing with materials, requisition of materials, purchase, procurement, and also tools too. So all those things are things we need to be conversant with and skilled with. Project management, safety management, procurement management, finance management, human resources management, even QA/QC, that's quality assurance and quality control, because of specification is always key and detailed. So if a particular vendor is saying that, okay, I'll need to supply a float switch of of, of possibly a rating of 30 watts, right? And he's coming to site with a 20-watt float switch. That means there's a breach as per the contract, because the contract will always say you should supply to specifications. So we need to also see how we could be QA and QC friendly, aggressive, and also in a way to make sure that whatever was brought into site meets the required standard and requirement. So a lot of things uh, are brought into play during the construction stage, which after the construction has been done, a duration timeline could be 4 to 5 days, and thereafter 4 to 5 days, the job is completed. Then they need to test what was installed, and that's why when I said there's always the difference between testing and commissioning. So testing is all about checking for functionality, checking error tests, trying to really see that those parameters that were submitted during the design stage were met and it really meets the standard. So testing is all about checking for functionality tests, error tests. But commissioning, on the other way, is now to really confirm that what was installed actually met the required standard and intention of the end users. For instance, now we talked about a control panel to pump water from the underground uh, uh, source down to the overhead tank. So at that time, there are parts, components, electrical components, plumbing components, mechanical components that are in play. So we'll be dealing for now, we're dealing with the electrical box, the panel, which we have the circuit breaker, we have the contactors, or possibly relays, the overloading relay or the manual relays, and we have terminal boxes in there. All those things are purchased, they are okay, they are up to standard. Now it's time to test that system. We know that here in Nigeria we use the single phase user to 20 volts and the three phase uses 400 volts. So that's the standard. Each specification on each of those line items that are to be installed comes with such standards. Then you bring in your multimeter, you check for continuity. Continuity is always good for you to check before you power such system. Electrical, it's always good for you to always check for continuity. If there's really a breach somewhere or there's an issue somewhere before that system is energized, and you check for continuity and you see that every component is fine and okay. That is with each of the breakers, there's always continuity uh, of current round through the whole system. It all looks and everything is fine. Then you power up the system. The system says it's a single phase because of it's just a mini system. It's a single phase, so that means you shouldn't have below 200, between 200 to 220. But it's always best with the 220 volts. Then you use your multimeter, a meter, and check, and you check that the incoming volt is above 220. That means there's a problem. You try and rectify, okay, from the source, what could be the problem? And after all checks have been done, you say, okay, it's now fine. You check again, you see that the voltage is now probably 218. Okay, that's nice. Or 222. Okay, that's nice. Then you energize the breaker so that that master breaker would now serve each component inside the electrical box. Then you now check for the contactor. After you check for the contactor, if you want to use fuses, you can also use fuse. You check for the fuse, and you see that everything is fine and okay. All those checks for functionality is when we refer to that as testing. And we shouldn't forget that when we do those checks, we should always document those data generated. So if I'm to energize the system and I'm checking from live and neutral and I'm saying to 20 volts, I need to document it. There should be a template for me to document that, yes, this particular system, when it was tested at this so time by this so engineer, this was what we got as the incoming voltage into the system. Each of the components will be itemized in that checklist. Is it okay? Yes, good, not applicable, just like that. You're checking for function to really check if that component is. At times, you could get a triple breaker, and after those three pole, only two are functioning. The last pole is there's no continuity in it. We've seen that always in the market. So these are times you need to check and really confirm that each of those components installed are functioning well, and error test should be done, functionality test should be done. Then now all those tests are done and you see that everything is fine. Then you energize the system completely. The water pumps, and when it gets to a certain level, it de-energizes the contactor for it to de-energize the power source. Then it cut off the power that is energizing the water pump breaker. Then it solves that problem. You've actualized what you want because of there was no overflow. Or should there be issues that there was an overflow of like 1 minute, then before it cuts off, then you can see that at that point you've commissioned, but you've not actually met the reason why you installed that system. And that's why at times we always say a pre-commissioning test operation, a post-commissioning operation at times in heavy and big industry, because they need to make sure that they commission over and over again for a certain period of time to really meet what they want. So you have the issue of T overflow. The system worked though, it worked fine. So it even cut off the system for them not to be over. But there was an overflow for 1 minute, which is a problem. They don't want any overflow at all. you don't want the system to be seamless. Whenever they have low level, it peaks. Whenever it pumps to a certain level that it could serve the facility for probably 12 hours, it cuts off. There's no overflow at that point. But now there's an overflow. So they need to trace what could be the problem. Is it the depth of the float switch? Or what could be that's when troubleshooting will start to make sure that they need to cook and remove that, eliminate that problem so that they will be able to achieve that particular objective they really want. So that's what commissioning is. So testing is just to check for functionality, to check for errors. But commissioning, did it really meet the agreed intention? Did it really meet the required solution for them to install that system? So that's what commissioning is all about. It's a confirmatory level if really what was installed met the end user's requirements, and if it really provided solution at that point in time. And that's what commission is all about. Then if it has been commissioned, it's fine and okay, there's no spillage, the whole system works fine, there's no issue of overloading, everything is fine and okay, then at that point in time they will need to hand over this project or this system to the end users. If that should be the case, at times we always see how handover is being done, wherein people does merriment. At times you go for some handover places which people cut ribbons and all, but it goes beyond that. Handover is making us understand that it's more about maintainability, operations, training. That's what handover is. Because the reason why that system was installed was to serve a particular purpose, not for a particular period of time, not for that day it was handed over, but for a continuous and long lifespan of that particular asset or about particular system. So handover is more about handing over with regards to training. If there should be a technician or operator on site, it needs to be properly trained on how to operate that system, how to maintain it. And at times we could always see that these training are always done virtually, but most times they come into the plant to do a in-person training. Documents are submitted as per the training manual, as per the operations manual. So all these things are things that need to be done during handover. Proper training should be done. Uh, Operational level of expertise should be done in a way that after the vendor left the such site, the operators, those guys on site would always be able to handle the particular system that has been installed. So it's always good for us to really understand how this. So in subsequent slides, we'll be seeing what it really entails as facilities manager to effectively test a system, to effectively commission a system, to effectively hand over a system. We'll see all that, and we'll also now understand what are the role of facilities managers in our site. We shouldn't forget we're talking about design, build, and commissioning. So it's all about the built environment, the built system. It's all about managing processes in our place of work, and also other projects that uh, we could undergo as time approaches. So now during the handover, this facility now has been these sites or projects have been given to a facility management company. It could be outsourced, or they could get an in-person facility management professional to run such site. So during the facility management, it's always good for us to understand that now this project has been given to us for us to manage, to maintain, to operate well. So a lot of things comes in, and that is when the complete processing happens, because documentation will come into play, monitoring will come into play, and we need to effectively manage that site in a way that it befits our profession. We are good at what we do, and that will always make us stand out amongst other professionals and even amongst our peers too. So during facility management, a lot of documentations are always in place because we need to manage our power energy system. We need to manage incidents on site. We need to manage defects, faults on site. We also need to manage issues which related to communication skills, and also how we could always manage our communication with stakeholders, with end users, with the clients, if there are some residential property with the landlord, and many more activities that happens during the facility. And it's not always easy, it's always bulky. I know as facilities managers, because of it's just like we running operations Sunday to Sunday. But if we are operationally ready on site, believe me, you won't be working a strenuous process and a tedious process of Sunday to Sunday. You would manage your process in a way that you'll be able to train people on site. So should be there be anytime you have to probably go for an event or occasion, or you have to go on break, you rest assured that yes, you left your site in good hands. And that is what we are driving at. We should always be open to knowledge, train people on site so that it makes our work easy. The burden will be lifted away and escalations will reduce. There will always be escalations on site, but evidences to show that yes, we did our work well, and this could be prevented if one or two issued our approval has not happened, and this wouldn't have taken place. So it's always good for us to really understand how things works as facilities managers. Whenever we run our businesses on site, because we're also business owners. The reason why we are in that site is to keep the business going. If I run a result and as a facility manager, the environment is not conducive, that means people will not come. It all boils down to the facility management team. What is happening? And people are complaining. The feedback from people are like, the place is not conducive enough. I see cobwebs everywhere. I see overgrown plants, and the landscaping is bad, and many complaints. It comes down to us. That means we're not growing such business. We need to be business oriented, and that's why it comes to those skills: the administrative skill, the business skill, the operational skill, the technical skill, and that our sustainability skill too. We need to try to merge all these skills together for us to be effective facilities managers on our sites. So operational readiness is very critical because we need to understand our business very well. We need to understand what really brings income to the business. How should we be operationally ready in it? And, and this is a critical aspect of it. This is just an example of how operational readiness work. So in a particular building, there are some buildings that varies. Uh, there are some buildings that they deal more with staffs than resources. Resources as per consumables, as per maintenance, and also as per renovation works too. So we need to understand our building. Work what really works best for my site. We need to try and see similarities of how can we be effective in our decision making. The next slide shows what operational readiness really understand, what it really means. Then then we'll now go back to this example again and see how we can correlate both. So operational readiness program, it's a system for the seamless transfer of a building from construction into full operations in a structured manner and also to an agreed program. So we'll take that piece by piece. It's a program, yes. Why is it a program? Because of there are stages and levels we need to attain such or approved program for it to be effective on our site. It's a system that seamlessly transfer a building from construction into full operations. Because from construction could also be renovations, but now we're talking about a green system, a green project. We have the green field project and the brown field project, but now we're talking about the green field project when it has to start with the construction. Now, not renovation or remodification and no, not all that, but construction starting from the scratch. How can we be operationally ready on site? We'll be looking at that. So it talks more about we being operationally ready from the ground stage, from the root stage, down to when it is being used. That's full operations. In two ways, in a structured way and to an agreed program. Any system without structure would always crumble over time. Every structure, every system without structure will always crumble over time. So we need to always align our operational readiness program in a structured way and to an agreed program because of we need parties that would agree to what we're doing. We're not doing it for ourselves alone, we are doing it for clients, we're doing it for vendors, that is the third party contractors, we're doing it for the entire system because of it will turn into a policy that everybody will need to agree to it. So we being operationally ready shows that we really know what we are doing on our site in a structured way and in an agreed program. And that is what this particular page is talking of, wherein over time we try to understand what really our businesses want. What does it want? Where should we put more energy? Because we always put more energy in one aspect than the other. That shows we are proactive, we know the system, we know how it works in an accommodation setting, probably an hostel or an hoteling business, you know that they deal more with personnel in different aspects of department. From personnel, we talk about maintenance, It's always rare for you to see renovation works going on because of everything has always been perfected right from the scratch. So we operational ready on site shows that it is our own aspect of we being critical in our decision making, so that whatever we are doing, it shows and reflects in our businesses. And that's why we need to be operational readiness on site. So people have always followed this traditional way of being operational ready on site. They start with the design. Yes, there's always design. There's nothing without. They always start with the design. After the design, they build. You've designed now, engineer, please just build something. And this is the drawing. And make sure you follow it descriptively and just build. After you build, the commission, like, okay, let's start using it. It's working. Then they go off into full operations. But this structure will always crumble over time because of, in fact, there's no maintenance in there. They always deal with reactive maintenance instead of they being instead of they to predict or even plan for any maintenance. So they just keep on using it without anything. There at times you could always see some road construction that were done like 10 years ago. Believe me, if you go back to such area now, you won't even see any asphalt or any form of probably they lay any form of tar or anything because of lack of maintenance. What they just did that we've commissioned the road, let's start using it. From there, it ends there. It returns back into a muddy floor, and that's what really has killed so many projects and so many issues coming up. But now we're going to how we can effectively be operational ready on site. It goes beyond that traditional way of just design, build, commission, and operate. Now we need to think, plan, we need to plan how we can effectively operate our sites. We need to design concepts. Those concepts needs to be executed in an agreed form with specifications that this is actually what I need. It needs to be tested that yes, it is fit for use. It needs to be commissioned that yes, it met my desired intention. Then then each department that it attains to, then it should be handed over with proper training. Both hard copies, at times you could always request for soft copies too for reference purposes. And therein a complete maintenance work carries on, planned for it to always get it right. The facility management team follows back through, and so it's always good for us to really understand that we need to be operational readiness on site. We really need to be operational ready because of if we're not operational ready, it will always fall back on our work. Our jobs will be referred with negative terms, and to show that we actually don't know what we are doing. So as facilities managers, it's either we are drivers or we provide inputs. It's always not easy as facilities managers at our place of work to be giving audience. Okay, facility manager A is requesting or is advising we do a particular aspect uh, of the design in a way that would be okay, and they are saying no. Is not now. We need him into the team. We only need him into the team after the job has been completed, so that he will manage the facility well. It's not always easy getting into such rooms because of people have always thought that facility management comes at the end of the project. But believe me, guys, we shouldn't be tossed there and there as per when we should come in. Let them just come in at the end. No, it shouldn't be like that, please. We should always respectfully and with discreetness try to find a ways that we need to be involved in every aspect and phases. It's not always easy, but our actions, our mode of communications, our character, and that's why we could see intelligence now it's skyrocketing as per the emotional intelligence, and now we could use a form of visualization to really express how we feel, solutions driven. So we should try and see how we could be effective in that way. Think of how can I make my voice being heard in rooms that you actually don't want facility management team to be dead till at the end of the project. We know our own process, we know our organizations. Some organizations would permit facility management team to begin at the early stage, but some they don't. But we are driving to change that narrative that no, guys, we need to be at the early stage of it. For instance, now at times you could see some high-rise building. They previously installed a split unit AC about 4 to 5 floors up, My guys, how would you manage or maintain such cases whenever there's issue with the outdoor unit? Probably the compressor is bad. The cost to even rent a scaffold itself is way above the cost to even maintain the AC or to even change the compressor. Or even you just want to just wash the outdoor unit with a pressure wash. It's crazy. So when we come in and we advise them on solutions that would help us with a seamless operational process and also a maintainability mindset, then they would understand that yes, we need the facility management team right from the planning stage of every project before it will now be handed over to them. So facilities manager, they don't drive the system or those phases. They don't drive the phase as per the planning, the designing, the construction, the testing, the commissioning, the handover. They don't drive such process at that point. They only give inputs, they only advise. They only advise at those points. But whenever it's now handed over to the facilities management team, then they can now drive their process. We facilities managers, we should always drive our process. We go into a system that does not work, for instance, probably we're just newly employed and we see a lot of backlog issues, we see a lot of problems right from um, yeah, down the organogram as per the reporting level, how things are done. Please, guys, we need to make sure that within the first 1 to 3 months, we need to fight our way for them to bend into our own processes as long it works for that particular organization. We're not changing policies or we're not changing the way they do their things. But anything related to your department, you need to make sure that you do such things. And those things are things we're having in this program. Things of how we could be equipped with documentation. Our job basically, we could monitor job raised, work orders, try to rectify issues. But how good are we with our documentation, our monitoring process? That's what part of the things that really makes us stand out as facilities managers. Because of those documents will always speak for us. If for instance now I'm purchasing diesel as at maybe 950 naira per litre and I need 15 litres every 2 months, for instance, every 2 months I'll need to get 15,000 litres. But due to the high cost of diesel now 1,200 and the consumption is high. It's just now that the national grid is okay that we're having constant power supply. We have little disruption. Months back, that in fact you actually literally don't have power from the grid for like almost a week, and you're burning diesel with 24-hour operations. So from the 2 months now, within 3 weeks or to 4 weeks, you are requesting for diesel. It becomes a problem for management to approve because of the like that will be consistent of we removing funds from our cost, which is not planned for. It's going beyond our budget for the operational cost. But when we give them reasons, they know that no, it's not our fault. This is high, right? But our way of presenting such matters to them, making them see this is the root cause, this is the consequences, um, this is the solution. These are evidences of diesel consumption each day, every 12 hours, during our peak period, during our off-peak period. This is the consumption we're having of light. Believe me, they will see this evidence and know, okay, it's making a sense. We actually don't have no choice. Okay, on Monday, we used 300 liters. On Tuesday, we used 150 liters. We only had 1 hour of power supply from the grid. They saw these evidences, for instance, and they're like, we don't have any choice. Operation needs to go on. But in that, you gave them a particular solution to solve that problem, either now introducing a diesel monitoring system or a way of reducing diesel consumption, the load during peak hours. What can I do to make sure that the load reduces during those times? So these are things we need to give, we need to present to management for them to really know, okay, we need to bend to his rules. He's really making us save costs and he knows what he's doing. Let us. So anytime we go into a system it doesn't work, we need to try to make sure that we drive that process so that it will always work. It will reflect on our job, it will reflect on the business, and it will also reflect on our profession. So that's what facilities managers need to do. They need to always try to provide input as at when due and also drive the system at every phase in the process. So we'll be going over to construction cycle facility management, and then we'll be talking about the roles of facilities manager in uh, each of those phase, in the construction phase, in the design phase, in the handover phase, and also the commissioning phase, those manuals, what we need to do, and many more. So we'll be starting with the design stage. So what does facility manager does? during the design stage. So before we continue with this module 2, we'll go on a short break, please. We'll go on a short break, a 4 minutes short break, please. So by 6 o'clock, please, we'll continue from this module that says what does facility managers, what do they do during the design stage, things they need to pick out and also pay attention to. So please, by 6 o'clock, we'll continue with this module. Okay, sorry, guys. So sorry for the short break. I just wanted us to try to cover this course module so that I could ask plenty of questions. Yeah, I don't want us to ask plenty of questions in this course module. So I'll be going back to the slide. Yeah. So I don't know if everyone is back. It's 6 p.m. already. So what are some key things facilities managers uh, what they do during the design stage? It's good for us to understand what they really do because these key things we probably not get all the full idea, but it's good for us to understand what they really do during the design stage. Because of it's always good for us to understand them so that when we engage in such projects, we could effectively find our way for us to make such contributions. For instance, if we're not being part of the design team and we are trying to apply, okay, can you hear why I need to stay? These are places we could pick out 1 or 2 points to give them as evidences why you need to be right from the early stage of such projects. So we need to try and understand and review the owner's project requirements and the basis for the design documentation for clarity and completeness. We understand that during design stage, at that point, they're trying to visualize what was planned for. They are all raw information, they are all objective, they are all assumptions, but now it has been visualized. We need to understand if such visualization really met the requirement of the owner. It could be the stakeholder, it could be for the end users, if it really met such requirement. We will also need to participate in quality management and commissioning meetings too. So before every project starts, there's always a quality QMS meeting, a quality management system meeting, wherein at times in some organization they'll request that the vendor they've approved for such contract should go in and do a safety induction or try to understand their plant, their do's and don'ts. So all these things are things we need to also participate in for us to really understand, try and meet them and see what we need to do. We also need to review drawings too, the design specifications at various stage. We know facilities managers, um, their qualifications, probably their first degree, are not engineering based. The background are not engineering, so we probably don't really understand how to read drawings, but it starts from somewhere. We need to always do something called research and development. There's another that now is transitioning into learning and development because of we don't have the background of such learning, and we are trying to try to hide behind closed doors and try not to provide inputs for a solution. No, we shouldn't do like that. For instance, now you don't know how to interpret drawings, but we are always conversant with drawings because we're always on site. We see projects going on, we see engineers doing drawing. It's just a simple thing. How do we communicate with those contractors? Are we having good relationship with them? They can basically interpret and teach us how to research drawings within 15 minutes. 15 minutes is even much. You will probably know how to draw from scratch a blueprint, but you can interpret it. So our courses should be based on specifications on how we could have a relationship with everyone on site, how our relationship, our communication mode, so that whatever we want to learn on the job, it's always easy for us to do. So we should learn how to read drawings, please. It doesn't, and now we have portals and also website that videos that shows how we could learn anything, anything. We could always learn anything online, and that's how technology is growing. We should also review contract documents. So for instance, now a project is ongoing and there are some things that did not meet the specification. We can only know that because of we have an overview of what the contract document says. And that's why in our facility we have the SL, that the service level agreement. It's good as facilities managers, we need to know what's in that SLA. So that whenever we are undergoing some maintenance work, if it's just to change a light bulb and the SLA says we need to change it under 15 minutes, please, the 15 minutes should be 15 minutes. So if we are going beyond 15 minutes, it becomes a problem, especially when there are spares on site that we could work with. So if your pumping machine goes bad, and yesterday says it should be under probably within 24 hours, please let it always stick to 24 hours. We should always try and even rectify the issue before 24 hours. So all these apps. So we should always review contract documents. So we should make sure that it meets specifications and those specifications are adequately followed. We should also participate in value engineering, management reviews, and make recommendations to resolve potential operation and maintenance problems. And that was what we said about the installation of ACs. At times, those high-rise buildings, they don't use split units. Even if they are to use split units, they should be access. And those access should have a terrace with parapet, right? That's why most of the buildings, because of the design, they prefer to use that's the centralized unit system, either the VRF up there, the chiller system, and all. So it's always good for us to review such engineering. So if some engineering they provide some if drawings that does not meet good standard, then we'll let them know this does not meet good standard. It does not make sense. How are we going to operate and maintain in this kind of condition you guys are trying to design and erect a structure that will not even befit the end users direct. So it's always good for us to always think of if I'm to operate a particular system, if I'm to maintain it, is the work always easy? At times, there are some ACs that some little unit that are installed in location A, but the outdoor unit is location B. The water drain line is location C. Guys, how are we going to resolve these problems? So whenever the AC is having issue with dripping of water and the drain line is blocked, you start tracing, where did it drain line, where did it come out from, where is the outlet, and many more. So we should try and see how we need to follow those engineering. We need to participate in that value engineering to make sure that the engineering meets required standard and make recommendations. So we should also set up procedures for operational readiness program implementation and integrate into contracts. So we need to operationally ready on sites all the time. We need to try to implement it and also integrate it into a contract. What of during the construction stage? We need to also ensure quality assurance and commissioning activities are carried out in a logical, sequential, and effective, efficient manner. Also need to work with the main contractor. So our relationship with the main contractor is always key. Our relationship with artisans on site is always key. Our relationship with the security operatives on site are always key because they are actually uh, being part of the team. So we need to make sure that we work with them closely. We need to build a good relationship with them. So with respect to the main contractor, we need to work with them closely so that we can really master the schedule, milestones, project timelines. We need to really understand that. We need to also revise as necessary the construction phase commissioning plan developed during the design stage, which includes the scope and also schedule. So we need to visit sites. We need to always visit sites to make sure that what was designed it meets the specifications and also the installation activity that is going on. We need to always try to visit sites. So we need to always give a review on actions carried out, issues pending, backdate on if issues has been resolved, and also other things. So we need to always have a report template each day. What activities goes on site? Yes, what issues were raised? Was it resolved? Is it pending? What is the status? Is it pending? Has it been resolved? So you need to be actively present on site if we are to run a project with at that commissioning stage. So we need to also work with the design and construction team to review submittal applicable to systems being commissioned for compliance with commissioning needs. So if a particular system is due for commissioning, right, and there are some document that needs to be submitted to meet such. For instance, now the warranty of every system. They've procured this. For instance, now they've procured the AC. I know most glitch unit AC. It's always a 12 months warranty. There's just some VRF that could be 7 years. There's some system from LG that the compressor alone is 7 years warranty. Like the 5 horsepower. I know we actually don't use the 5 horsepower. We don't use the horsepower in AC. At times we use the BTU. But literally speaking to a layman, the 5 horsepower at times most of their compressors are 7 years. So our relationship with the OEM, with the original equipment manufacturer, make us understand. So before the commissioning needs, part of it is the compliance as per, for instance, the warranty, as per if it really meets commissioning needs, if it has been fully installed, if the design is fine, if there are no issues with the system, if there are no dents, if the fins, as per the evaporator outside, if there are a bit of dents that could cause the leakage with those outlet pipes. So all those things, the refrigerant pipes. So all these things are things we need to check during the construction stage to make sure if there are not any issues with the system. We need to also review change order for impacts on maintainability and client objectives. So in every construction, in every project, either a small project, there's always a change. And that's when we talk about the change management. So if I'm to install a 2 horsepower AC, for instance, in a room of probably 250 square meter space, and I feel okay, that should be good and well enough. Then after there's a review that okay, it's not going to be an open space anymore. We are trying to do a form of space utilization, and we're performing the barricade, we're forming trying to split the room and all that. We can see that at that point there's a change. Management have reviewed have that change is there. For you to effect that change, you need to review that change. Okay, what they are doing and will it still meet the intended standard? If I'm to maintain that system, now that means there will be issue with a little bit of renovation that could go on with building demolition in an excluded part that will now need to channel that AC refrigerant pipe through the wall if they are to run a conduit system So a lot of things will be changing. So these things that are changing does it make sense to the client? Does it still meet the client's objective? If I'm to conduct a maintenance, routine maintenance over time, would it be easy for me to operate that system and also maintain that system? So if that change has been effective, what should I do? How do I communicate with the main client for them to give their full approval? And the drawing that were submitted before needs to be reviewed, amended, and approved again, because of the as-built drawing would have that updated design. So these are things we need to think to make our process seamless, to make it professional, and to make it easy for us to work with others too. And this happens during the construction stage. Also during the construction stage too, we need to also maintain a master issues log, which we talked about each day, things that happen on site. What are the issues? Has it been referred? Has it been resolved? What is the root cause? What is the consequences? What's the solution? So we need to always have that reporting too in it. We need to also review equipment warranties too, which we talked about. We need to also facilitate and oversee the training of clients operating personnel too. That's during the construction stage. And we should also review the preparation of the operation and maintenance manual for commissioned equipment and building systems. So as those equipment are being installed, we should always think of how this system needs to be operated, how it needs to be maintained. Because of during the handover, these are things that will be effective. So to avoid issues of uh, these documents are not available, it's always good for you to start early. And that's why when a building, for instance, now if you are to handle a project of probably 7 to 8 floors, right? And part of the document requested from the main client is that you should have an asset register for that building. It is not after the building has been completed, about to be commissioned, you now start gathering data for the asset register. It becomes bogus, it becomes tiring, overwhelmed with a lot of information. So you need to start early. You need to have a record and keep on updating those records. It makes it easy. So that's why you need to look at the project contracts, the document contract. What do they require from us? You have to start building those document contracts right from the design stage. So that during construction, those documents continues, then we could now see how we could update them over time. Then it will be easy for you to present. And it will always be easy for you to base your assumptions, your decisions, and see trends of what is really happening. Which floors gave issues? How can we prevent that for the next floor? Okay, the next floor is also giving issues on another aspect. So a lot of experiences are gained, and then you're actually making sure you're operationally ready on site, especially during the construction stage too. So what of after construction? We will also see line items on what we need to do. They also assist with the pre-qualification and selection of FM service provider. So after the construction have been done, now they're thinking of which FM company would maintain this particular building. Should we outsource it or should you have an in-house? So at that time, you're thinking of selection. That's a pre-qualification assessment. You could most times are always as per QMS standard, the ISO standard, and they're thinking of what can we do to make sure that this building continue to exist, not just 10, 15 years, but even minimum of 50 years. They also identify and solve problems or concerns with operating the building as originally intended. So they are now their mindset is how can we manage this building, this facility, how can we manage it? They identify areas that could come under warranty or under the original construction contract. Please, well, I always advise whatever purchase you do, it's always good for you to have a warranty on it. At times, it's not always easy to purchase items or assets with warranty, but it's always advisable. For instance, now you bought an AC, probably 9,200 BT, that's a 1 horsepower AC, for instance, now 300,000 without a warranty. Then you got another with warranty for 50,000. That AC with warranty would save you more over time. Because of now, even if you are to install such protector, if ACs that know that works 24/7, especially ACs in a server room, in a data system building, no matter how that AC works, even though it's from the company, there could always be breakdown. And there could be backup that will back up such system, but there's always a breakdown. And that breakdown, the original equipment manufacturer is telling you that even if there's a breakdown, any part there will do it for free. And we know how much parts of ACs, how expensive they are in the country right now. So over time, if you have to calculate how much you spend on parts. At times, it could even be times two of how much you purchase it without a warranty. So it's always good for at times for you to always work with warranty. For instance, now a generator system, it's always good for you to be under inspection and servicing maintenance contract. Because of when you start having different vendors working on your generator, it will always continue to develop issues. But when you know you work with a particular vendor that okay, I'm having a contract with you that I always inspect your generator every two weeks and every 2 weeks and there's a six servicing contract. So I always service your generator 6 times, and this is the value I'm giving it to you. It saves more because of it's under warranty. So whenever there's issue, it's under a contract. So whenever there's issue, they come in, they repair. The contract will always say, okay, I would purchase some particular parts, either in the electrical system of the generator or the mechanical system. So that's how we need to understand what our warranty works and also how contract too works. We need to be detailed and understand it works. So the generator will be like, okay, if there are issues with the generator, if the alternator is bad and the service provider would replace it. But if the fan belt is bad, yeah, the end users will replace it. So these are things we need to really understand how service contracts work, how warranty works, and also how these contracts really play important role on how we can save costs on site. So these are things we think after construction have been done because of now full operations will start to go on. So we need to also provide effective operation and maintenance of the building systems. Yeah, we need to also think of how we can effectively operate and maintain the plumbing system, the electrical system, the HVAC system, the generator system, the the vent system. So we need to always think far. We need to always be proactive in what we do as facilities manager so that whenever there's issues, it saves us cost, it saves us time. Instead of us spending late hours at work, in the morning, in the afternoon, even at night, you've dedicated your time that okay, within a certain period of time, 2 to 4 weeks, I'll put my whole strength, my whole finances into making sure that the process works so that I could always rest over time. And that's what helps facilities managers that are proactive. They come into work early and they leave early. Only when there's issues they stay. But if they feel okay, I need to leave, I have someone I trained that should be on site, it becomes a plus for them. So these are things we need to think as facilities managers to effectively run our site. And that is what we're saying. It makes us operationally ready on the site. So these are some FM informations, requirements, list of vendors used for the construction or the project, vendors contracts. Yes, that's the SL. It's always good to have a contract with your vendors, wherein they will be able to fill in their office address. They'll need to fill in key stakeholders, shareholders of the company. They also need to fill in either their CAC. They'll need to also attach their CAC registration certificate, their task, their things. So a lot of things. We need to always have those requirements put in a docket, their financial data of the project, the utility bills, organization charts, the site information, that's the drawings too, the service level requirements, equipment listing, the maintenance records, permits, key contacts, emergency numbers, incident reporting procedures. So all these things are things we need as facilities manager. Whenever we go into a site, these are part of the requirements we need. It goes beyond this. Things we need to look out. Is the environment conducive? At times you go into a facility, you already feel overwhelmed. How will I even start to manage? The outdoor unit alone is looking like they used it to maybe they were cooking on it. I don't know. So you see different things, and you're already tired. That how will I where will I start from? Where will I start from? So, but as long we have true intentions, we want to do our job. We want to provide impact. Yes, and we want the system to change because it does not just change with a few just it does not change entirely just like that. It takes time. So reason why we're taking up that job, what is our true intentions, what do we need to correct, what defect is in the system, how can we drive the process. So that will really push us to do our job. So these are some key requirements we need during setup and when we go into a site, either existing one or a newly built one. So operational readiness program post construction, and here talks about how we could achieve a seamless transfer. No, sorry, operational readiness is a system that operates in a way that we have a seamless transfer from the planning, right, down to the full operations. So what do we need to do? We need to obtain a senior leadership endorsement. So when we think of things to uplift the system, when we think of things to to make the process work. We can't do it on our own. We are just probably even though we are even senior manager on site, we have bosses and we have stakeholders, we have board of directors. So as per the our organogram and hierarchy of leadership, we need to know who is our next line manager. We need to obtain their endorsement that yes, this can work. We need to do it in a way that it meets the documentation standard of that company. You don't just present document. There's some company that they deal only with Excel format, some deal with only with PDF, some does with only with Microsoft Word. So you need to understand the document standard and how you should uh, reference that document. So also make it a contractual requirement that all contractors submit their documentation complying with company standards. So we need to strictly enforce this operational readiness program. So at times we're talking about operational readiness program. It's all about making sure that the process works. Things that your own company is agreeable to it. We talked about it in a structured manner and also in an agreed manner. So it's structured, right? So there won't be any pitfall, any form of a defect over time. So in an agreed way, your company is aware of it. It's going to be in a document, though, guys. It's going to be in a document that every standard should be followed. So your company will agree to it. The vendors, contractor will agree to it. And should there be any third party too, they will agree to it. And that is what it's all about. It's going to be with different clauses and with different sections. Sections about operations, maintenance, sections about handover, sections about testing and commissioning. So it's going to be different sections. Sections with that during the design, numbers of soft copy you should bring, numbers of hard copies. Now, a lot of things will be in play just for you to get the process and the system right. So at that point, when you get that document complete, therein you could always function in a high level, in a high level that would always make the process seamless for you to always effect. So over time, there's always improvement. You monitor the process, you improve, you implement. So it's always good for also operational readiness on site. So these are some things we that happens during when we make suggestions with regards to that document we are drafting. Mm. First, we try to prepare a draft of that document. Mm. And we are assuming that the next line manager to us is the CEO. So we send to the CEO to review, to check is there any amendment. Okay, there's no amendment on this section, page 24, clause on paragraph 21 or so, or click on paragraph 4. I'm not okay with this. Kindly amend. It sends back to you. You amend again. Try to see. It sends back. Okay, try and make adjustments here. And I'm not okay with this clause. If we have to go with this clause or this requirement as part for the contractors, it could be short-changing ourselves. So we don't want that to affect our finances. Can they modify this and change it like this? Try and change the English. They'll use English to scatter everything. You understand? So that's how it works. Just to make sure that it's a system that works for all parties. Then after he's okay with it, what he does is like, okay, now we're good. He shares with other party member and like, okay, this is what we're working on. He then want to add any addition or any form of agreement to it. If it's all fine, he approves, and that document becomes a standard document that is not only applicable to the in-house personnel, but it's also agreeable to the contractor. They will need to adhere to that document because it's coming from the main client. So, and it's one thing with facilities manager, we do with document because of that shows we are actually doing the work. This document helps for monitoring, for control, and for improvement. So at times you could be working with 20 different documents in a month as facilities managers. Yes, you could be working with it. So it's always good for us to try and see how we could arrange our affairs, our time management on documentations, because it helps us um, check for loopholes. It helps us understand that if we're really doing the job and if really we're able to make a proper decision over time. So what happens without an operational readiness program? There'll be disarray, there'll be issues. Contractor will submit their documents in different formats. You would always see that some will submit in Excel, some will submit in PDF. There's no exact, but at times it's always good for us to make sure that when we are trying to bid for or to send out contracts to vendors, we should try and work with the templates. It makes it easy, and instructions should be given that it should be only in this format. Yes, it should be only in this format. So it to be so unstructured, it's just gonna be just not okay at all. The entire process, it's probably be in shambles with time. So it's always good for us to be operational readiness on site. And one thing that comes with we being operational ready is standardization. And that's why I don't even know the QMS, part of the QMS. That's the 5S. That's the sorts, the shine, the set in order, the sorts, the standardization. It's always good for us. So we follow that standard to meet quality. So it's always good for us to know that when we are operational readiness on site, we are dealing with standards. Standard, it looks arranged, it looks okay, the format is fine and okay. And what do we get? We get a solution that provides with a strict record on operation and maintenance, a section of operation and maintenance, a section of testing and commissioning, then also the handover. That's what brings it. Okay, probably we could have a copy of how one looks like. So different organizations have their own operation readiness program, different organizations with different formats. So it depends on what the company or the organization agrees on. Yeah, so that then if they have to make some modification, all that. So, but we can do more research on it, on how this looks like. I know there'll be questions after the class model, but we'll also look more about it. So as facilities manager, so we deal with procurement. You know, during the construction, we talk about procurement management. So we deal with so whatever you are purchasing on site, we should think of three things. We should think of the original cost of design, right? If I'm to design this, if I'm to purchase this, what is the cost? If I'm to renew it, renewal could be the entire replacement, could be repair costs. We think of that. So cost of operating and maintaining that asset being purchased. So you should always think of, is me get if I'm to get this, is it does it actually meet the need? What's going to be the life cycle of such assets? So it's always good for us to think as facilities manager during procurement, if it's going to be of benefit whatever I'm procuring for the organization. And if spares are available, so there are some things you get and there are no spares, what will you do? So if I'm getting a particular asset and I'm purchasing it for like 20,000 for instance, and then weekly I'm maintaining that asset for 5,000. Does it make sense? It does not make sense. So that's just a scenario. Because over time you see that you are even maintaining more than the cost value. So we should always try to benchmark and balance our procurement whenever it comes to things we get on site, the asset purchase, and also that comes to also whenever construction is also happening. So every asset life cycle deals with the design stage, that's the construction, the operating stage, the repair stage, the maintenance stage, time you need to upgrade and also to retire, probably due to dilapidation, and you need to get a new one. So the asset life cycle are things that you should know that is involved in every asset. So if I'm to get, for instance, now an AC, I should know that, okay, oh, does it come with an installation manual? What is the contract? Is there any warranty on it? These are what the asset life cycle details. So if I'm operating it, okay, the standard operating procedures, does it has the permit to it? That what's the operation and maintenance log? Is there any manual come with it? So you need to always think a round check of every asset purchased. If I'm to repair, will it be easy for me to repair? Is the part readily available? Is there any drawings? At times you go into uh, some organizations. It's basically almost everywhere. There's always an installation manual, even operation and maintenance manual of every AC that comes from the original equipment manufacturer. So are those things readily available? The maintenance aspect of it. What form of maintenance will I be giving to a particular asset for it to meet the intended lifespan of it? Is it the preventive maintenance? Is it the predictive? Is it the corrective base? So all these things are things we need to think of when it comes to assets managed and managed. So if I'm to upgrade, is it easy for me to upgrade? For instance, there's some control panel, electrical control panel that there are some DIN rays that are empty. Maybe you just see or one or two connectors there. It shows that panel could be upgraded. They could add more components into it. So things I get on site, my assets, things that goes through a lot of refining, is it upgradable, or it's just a one use aspect of usage? Then if I'm to retire it, that is, I actually don't need it again. How easy for me to get a replacement quick. So these are things we should ask ourselves as per assets purchase, as per assets, the life cycle, what comes with it. It comes with the design, it comes with the operations, it comes with the repair, with the maintenance, with the upgrade, and also replacing it to get a new one. So these are all aspects of how we could gain from assets that are on our site. So we should always think far and wide as per assets that are being used on site, assets that are brought into site. And this really helps us in our operations too. So yeah, it's talking about we talked about some requirements, FM requirements. Yeah, we just spoke about some. And yes, now detailing into sections as per business requirements, as per site data, as per services, as per performance issues, and also the cost too. So yes, giving us a broader information on how we could be operational ready as facilities managers when it comes to some key requirement that we need on site. So we should be business drivers. That's why when we handle facilities, we are the main process drivers. So we should always think of how we could always reduce costs. There's always a thing called cost to benefit, right? So the cost I'm implementing on a particular asset, does it have a return of investment over time? My site data, do I know some information on my site data? The address, the square footage, numbers of occupants, and that this deals with our asset registers, our operations, number of hours of operations, our peak hours, our off-peak hours. Do we know our peak hours and off-peak hours? I know there's some facility that will manage that. Probably the first 2 quarters, their peak hours will be during the day. That's probably 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. But when it's winding down to the fourth quarter, the usage will now be the peak hours will be at night because of the space they've transformed into something else. So we need to really understand our site very well, how they operate, how can we meet customer satisfaction, how do we make the end users need. Then what form of services are we rendering? It's always good for us to know. We should understand the service level agreement. We should understand the contract too attained when handling a facility. And the cost financial is always key because at times we present invoices for approval and it's not always easy for us to get it approved because of the huge cost attached with it. But we should try and see how each year we know our cost. So before taking up a site, should there be record? We could always ask for what is the cost or what was the budget for last year? What was spent? What was expended on it? Was there any deficit? We should always also understand how we should always have accounting requirements like little invoicing skills, little calculation skills, cost of per square meter, and also cost of energy usage. All these things are things we know that we should put into play. We should also calculate our key performance indicator with regards to customer feedback. Yeah, it's always good on our side. Should we deal with clients? We should always ask for their cost for their feedback. We should always share forms, either in soft copy or hard copy. They should give their review about performances of the facility management activities that are going down. Then we should also check for backlogs, logs that are pending, some deferred maintenance that have not been approved, that have not been treated, and it's causing issue. It could just be a flickering bulb and it's not issue now, it's inside the store. We go there once in a while, so there's no need for us to change it. We should always check for that and see how we can always correct that defect on time too. And therein, we could also see other benefits of operational readiness program. It protects capital investment in companies' plan, equipment, buildings, because the preventive maintenance program is available at handover. It also ensures that uh, uh, that is the operational readiness is always key at all times. So because of equipment lasts long when it is being managed well. For instance, now your generator. Imagine you running your generator back to back for hours and it's above 200 hours. The mileage is getting increased to 350 hours and you've not serviced that gen. And you want that gen to last for you. It's not possible. In fact, you'll be having series of breakdown. And these are things we need to avert on our side. So when we are operationally ready on site, guys, our equipment will last long. Imagine you washing a filter every 2 weeks, the AC filter. It will last long because of it will be breathing well. You know that imagine flushing the drain every 1 month. There are some ACs that you know that okay, this AC where it is located, we have numerous of doors going in there, and there are numerous end users. There are some offices that are probably the video editing office, for instance, or open space where we have multiple users using there. That AC will always go bad if not properly maintained, and it will always be corroded with dust. So probably every week or every 2 weeks, you try to remove the filter and watch to avoid issues. And so one of the factor which ensures a reliable income stream for the company is when establishments earn revenue from the key things facilities are doing. That's why I say that we are also business managers, because of we want the business to grow. So as facilities managers, to make sure that the environment is fine and okay, operations is nice, maintenance is okay, and we do our maintenance not when we have visitors on site or when we have numerous occupants, and that's when we say, please, I need to repair this, I need to do this. No, we should always do it accordingly. We should always know that we notify them, okay, please, there'll be service disruption at so time, kindly bear with us. Then it is being done at a time that does not form any form of nuisance or inconveniences for the end users. So these are when we are operationally ready on site. So there's a question that says, when should we launch the operational readiness program? Should it be at the design phase or in the early stage of construction? So we're coming back to this question during the question and answer section, when we're able to know when we should launch the operational readiness program. But going forward, we'll be talking more about the operational and maintenance manual, uh, what it entails, and we could see that it involves the schedule of assets, the operating manuals, the contract information from manufacturer, the safety procedures. So basically, this operational maintenance manual is a compilation of what the end users or the guys in charge should use to operate and maintain that particular system. So when there's a breakdown, when there's an issue, he knows you need to replace. For instance, now if for instance it's an AC and the condenser is bad, so he knows that, okay, how many do we have in stock? We have like five that were given after the handover, and okay, I'll need to replace one compressor from the badging. So this detailed are inside such manuals, specification of each of what was installed, the maintenance schedule. Okay, in the project they installed probably 25 split unit ACs, and based as per the location, we know that maintenance in different location varies. So maintenance for server room is different from maintenance in the dormitory. Should it be a both residential and commercial setting? So each maintenance plan as per each of where those assets were installed. So these are what operational readiness is all about. As per operational and maintenance program, it gives a detailed information on operational readiness program. Now, also the testing and commission. I know we've talked about testing and commissioning as a different ball game, though it works together. But testing is all about checking for functionality. Each of those components, checking for errors. Is it okay for commissioning? Is it fine? Then if it's okay for commission, then you can now commission the system by making it work. If it really meets the end user's objective. If it does not, then it will need to be checked again and commissioned again until it reaches the needs of the end users. If that satisfactory level is being met, then we could continue to go on. So it's always used by all contractors. I told you being operational ready means what your company agrees on is same with what the vendor does. And that contract, that document is what all stakeholders will keep in copy for them to know that everybody is on the same page. So it involves the role and responsibility of the engineers on site, the overall plan, the scope of job, the way the commissioning will be done, the way the testing will be done. And each testing comes with an inspection checklist and a document. We need to document those results, those data, for future reference and future purposes too, so that there'll be an overview on what really happened during the testing stage and the commission. So that in case there should be any other issue, they can always date back and able to resolve the problem. So it's always good for us to do testing and commission. It's always essential because it ensures that all equipment and facilities are tested and commissioned in accordance to the design criteria, and ensures what was paid for is what was installed. Yes, it ensures that the equipment is operating to its maximum efficiency. So what was installed or what was designed? Was it what was installed? Does it serve the purpose? This is what is being carried out during testing and commissioning. So, and during that time too, there's always a warranty agreement. Yeah, that okay, it's working well. So we need to make sure that that some contract will be like within 6 to 12 months, and you need to come and always check on on the project that has been completed to make sure that it's fine and working. Okay, it's always there, and that's why they can always factor it with variations and also administrative costs, some little bit of markup to cover for that expenses after the project has been commissioned and handed over to the main client. And here talks about some key things we need to look at during testing and commission. At the construction, does it meet the required standard? The quality of items installed, the specifications, does it also meet the required standard? The operations, does it meet what really is intended for it to carry out? So we need to identify these essential things so that we know that we are thorough with our job, we are aggressive, and we know what we are doing. It becomes a professional aspect of us. So these are some things we would also talk about with our testing and commissioning manual. It's a compilation of all these documents, not limited to all this. It depends on the scope of the project. Then you can always get more document attached to it. The as-built drawings, the bill of quantity, the snag list. The snag list is issues that were not treated during the construction stage. During construction, at times you can always see that there are some high-rise building that are littered with lights, right? But they are not done with the construction. Things are still ongoing. So over time, there could be some issues that out of like 6 or 7 bulbs in a particular space, two have gone bad. They felt they are not done with the construction, so let us just leave it. And during commissioning, we'll do it before then. Before you know it, drags until when commission is done. But as facilities manager, as we're involved in that project, all these things are things we need to take notes. Little things, things that are defects that were not treated during the construction stage, are things that could be put into a snag list, and that's what a snag list does. And when we have the vendors details, the guarantees and warranties, the manufacturer recommendations, legal documents, and design modification information. So it's always good for us to know that it's always key for us to commission right. It saves and reduce energy cost of 5 to 20%. It's simple. It's a simple logic, guys. For instance, now we talked about AC, right? If not properly installed, you keep on testing. Man, you can even spoil something in it. So why don't you commission? Why don't you install right and commission it well? For instance, they install an AC now, right? And you see that the compressor was not picking, or probably the AVA surge protection unit that was installed with it was not properly installed. They tried testing. There could be some surge voltage fluctuation. Before you know, it affect the compressor. You not just wasted energy on testing for it. I'm not getting the required cooling effect. What is happening? The compressor is not picking. It's a new AC. What's happening? You're burning energy. Your consumption is going on. Until much testing, the compressor went bad. So what would you do? So when installation has done right, testing are properly done to make sure that each of the components is tested and working fine. Then it is being commissioned. Then we would save energy costs should there be issues if not properly installed well. So that's what you're saying. A typical commissioning program can even reduce energy costs 5 to 20% on an average. And during the handover month, I talked about handover as not a time for us to shake hands and cut ribbons and eat uh, small chops. If it's something elaborate, we could eat food and all that. No, it's more about training. It's more about proper handover on the responsibilities and the core aspects of the project so that easy maintainability, easy operationality could always carry on over time. So it involves roles and responsibilities of operators, what they should do, and administrative procedures with regards to closing out well. Those administrative procedures are those documents. So when you compile those documents together, well detailed, well structured, probably in the file, you are performing administrative procedures. Then a template facilitate the handover. Then like a checklist. Is this document there? Okay, is this there? Okay, this is missing. So a checklist as per a template to facilitate and some line actions we need to do as facilities managers in the handover stage. So it's always good for us to really understand how handover works place. Training, operations, maintenance, documentation handover is what really is handover. And the documentation presentation and also this commissioning process. So it's always good for us to get all these requirements, all these documents quick during the construction stage, during the design stage, during the construction stage. We need to get it quick, please, so that it'll be easy for us to hand over during that period of time, so that there won't be any issues. So these are also some things we need to do to hand over to, please. Um, we have the regulatory documents, the defect list, which is that snag list, the training record, the operational maintenance manual, the ASB drawings, and also the test results, please. The test results. So those test results are datas you had to input, and data you had to input whenever when you were doing the testing. Okay, what voltage came in, what voltage was on the output side, was the power, uh, was there any issues, many details you're able to gather during testing. So those are the testing results. When you were checking for functionalities, those things you were checking are what testing it's all about. And that is just what it is. As facilities managers, we need to be active on site. So if you notice that second um, suggestion that advises what facility managers to do, is that they should reverse engineer the existing project. At times you go into a project or a new site, right? And believe me, there are no documents, no existing process document, no drawings, no panel wiring drawings. Everything is just blank. What should you do? You need to operate that facility, and that's what reverse engineering is. Reverse engineering is a systematic approach of retrieving data, informations, existing informations and data that are not existing. How do you do that? Information and data are not existing, no, but you are retrieving them. And that's what reverse engineering is all about. For instance, now, I'll be quick about this. There are some systems you go into that the distribution board does not even, they are not labeled. So how would you know where serves each of those breakers like those distribution boards? And that's why we work as a team. And then you put different guys in different location, and at a convenient time, you start switching off each of the breakers. It's gonna be tedious to really know where these breakers work. Then you label such breakers. This helps as per maintainability because you need to maintain the system over time. There'll be issues. So how would you isolate a particular breaker when you don't know a particular space when you don't know where the breaker is? So that's what reverse engineering is. So it's all about retrieving outdated information. It's a systematic approach of retrieving data and information that are not existing, but compiling into a well-documented process for it to use during maintenance. So in summary, we've talked about operational readiness program. It says it's a system to transfer a building from the construction to full operations, right? In a structured manner and in an agreed manner. They talked about being operational ready. It talks about three ingredients, right? The operational readiness program talks about the operational maintenance program, the testing and commissioning, and also the handover. We talked about the difference between testing and commissioning. Test is all about checking for functionality, guys. Check for functionality, check for error testing. Where are issues? Is there any issues with this particular installed system? Right? Does it mean they will now have to now commission? Okay, now everything's working fine. But does it meet the required standard to ensure that what was aimed, what was planned, if it meets the end user's requirements and to what was installed? And that's what commission is all about, and that's just different. And drill handover is not about cutting ribbons, guys. It's all about training, it's all about operations, it's all about having manuals for maintenance to make sure that what was installed will always last long. The life cycle will not just be a short period of time, but to always last long. And should there be any time for upgrade, it's always easy for us to get it right. So that's what uh, design, build, and commission is all about. It's a bit robust, but I'm sure we've gotten one or two parts of it. So we're going down now to question and answer. And there was a question being raised now: when should we initiate the operational readiness program? Should it be at the design stage or later during the construction? So we're taking questions now. I just want to just switch back to the zone. Okay. Okay. So okay. Okay. Let me stop sharing. Okay. So I would like responses, please. I know that time is fast spent. I would like responses on when should we initiate this operational readiness program? Should it be at the design stage or maybe after construction or during construction?
Okay, so it should be done before the construction.
All right, before the construction. So when should that be before the construction? I don't even have any other opinion. Okay, let me try and so that I could know.
Then I also have a question.
Okay, okay, Mr. Adeyinka.
Yes,
Okay,
please.
Mr. Adeyinka said, okay, well done, Chief. You said after the construction, right?
No, I said before,
Okay, before the construction. So that's the early stage, right? Early design stage.
Yes, early design stage.
Yes, please, you're right. Yeah, you're right. You're right. It should be at the early design stage so that we'll be able to monitor the process and make it work. So please, your question. Can you go with your question?
Okay, so please, when you're explaining about did not lay emphasis on the GI coordinating. So what does it entail?
Okay, okay. So that's just the location. It's more like a geographical location. Every site, at times you just go to your Google map and you copy and paste the exact location. So it's just a coordinate, right? It's just a coordinate of the exact location of your site. Yeah, so it's just a feature of you understanding your site very well. Just a feature of that.
Okay, okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah, yeah, that's why. So we have different aspects of our site information we need, different aspects of our site. And at times it's always good that we talk about the space utilization. So if I'm using a 20 square meter space, I should know how much it costs per hour, I should know how much it costs per day. So it's just me knowing full detail of my site. Website. So that's just it. So please, if you have any question, kindly signify.
Yeah, hello, good evening.
Yeah, good evening, Mr. Usman.
Yes, sorry, mine is just you made mention of okay now the issue of can we have a sample, just a sample of some of this, you know, this program that you're talking about, just like a
Okay, okay,
sample.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, I would, certain the Baraka will share with the class a sample of all this. I know the reason why
Okay.
the reason why I here is to grow, is to grow. So from my own experience, I've worked with Nigerian Braille. So a copy will be shared on how the operational readiness program look like. Please, we should try and keep it confidential because of there are some key details that are hard time to. Because if I start removing some detail, we'll probably not understand it well. So we should try and keep it confidential as for personal use. And so that one aspect of our operational readiness program, it detailed there of like 7 different sheets in a file, Excel file, where it highlights all this, the operational maintenance, the project specifications, and
Okay.
yeah, the locations. At times, there was one I worked with. The after maintenance when I'll need to put in total numbers of staffs that will be coming through flights. Yeah, because it's different
Wow.
location outside Lagos, the cost for it, all these things will be factored. Then there's also a variational cost where you need to put variational cost of certain percentage, and you need to also back it up with why you're using that percentage for it. And certain as long they're okay with your commercial, with your technical, they'll usually get it approved. I'm
Oh,
certain you would get that. Yeah, so I shared the file. I'm certain you'll get such files too.
okay. All right.
Yeah, and there's
Thank
some
you very
other
much.
files too. Yeah, there are other files I work with on site, the incident reports, and up to
Okay.
like 6 or 7 files. So you get them so
All
that
right.
you can modify them to your own site, please.
Yes.
You
Yes.
yeah, your energy report, the diesel, the consumption, the solar, all the megawatt hour. Please modify it
Oh,
to your own site. Yeah, just a preamble of what it looks like a template. Yeah. So
well, that's a good one. Thank you very much.
all right.
And then, sorry, lastly, and
Yeah.
you talked about the reverse engineering,
Yeah.
you know, especially for existing, facility where you don't have some of these design like as build, design your M&E and
Yeah.
things like that. So basically, I still need you to really, you know, a bit just share more light on
Okay.
that.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so it could be done manually or automated. It depends on if you have professionals, because this deals with you bringing in professionals on site. A way for they'll try to fish out cables, try to confirm, for example, electrically speaking, you're able to understand how your power system is being distributed. So they'll need to do a thorough, comprehensive check and inspection of your entire system on your power systems. And they will label that system to suit maintainability purpose. So
All right.
for instance now, there are some sockets that are connected or looped from a distribution box as per a circuit breaker. And you're in a facility that none of the circuit breaker or distribution box is labeled. So how would you know which breaker serves that socket in that particular space? So you bring in professionals to check manually. Manually, you bring in a lot of competent electrical guys on site, distributed in different spaces. Then you communicate with
Okay.
them. Yeah, you need to turn off and turn on breakers. You need to be safe. You need to be PPE geared, and trying to
Yeah.
make sure that yes, okay, where it goes off, which is on. Try to confirm from every angle, and as that after it has been confirmed, you label. After you confirm, you label, and that does with
Wow.
also with plumbing issues
Oh,
too. You start with
yeah.
if where's the master valve, you close, you open. You understand? Okay, where is water not coming out from? We're having issues. So all these things are done manually. Yeah, some could be automated with some instruments, but to really get what you're doing, I think there are some devices, some OET devices that you could always trace power if there's current in a particular line. Then if there's not, it will stop blinking or it will blink at that point. So
Yeah.
yeah, technology is growing fast, but but for you to get those equipment on site is hard. It's
It's
cost
hard.
effective.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the cost is crazy. So just manually get guys on site, professional guys, then for them to assist with the reverse engineering. So you just you retrieving
Sure.
data as ahead to make
Yeah.
you do your maintenance plan well. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right, Chief. Okay, so should there be any questions? We still have
Yeah, good evening, sir.
yeah, good evening.
My question is, the reverse engineering, is it for more all projects, even very, very small project like a single unit apartment, like maybe a story building, two-story, three-story building? Is it necessary for such as well?
Yes, it works with basically all projects, all brownfield projects, because you need to know how your building system is being networked with aspect of electrical, plumbing, and power systems, and also. So the reason why you're doing reverse engineering is for you to have that maintenance structure. For instance, now if an AC tripped off and from the breaker is not showing if there's any fault from there, that is from the DB, it will be hard for you to try to rectify that issue. This is why you're doing reverse engineering is just for you to quickly rectify issues. An AC tripped off and you're trying to resolve it. That place is there's discomfort, there's no form of air, any cross ventilation. And you need to quickly resolve it. And you're seeing power is not going to the AC. You check for the power. There's no power, there's no form of voltage going to the AC. What should you do? You go to the breaker. None of the breakers are labeled. It becomes a problem. But should you have done a reverse engineering, just try to make sure that what you have on site is uh, you have a direction, you know what you're doing, and whenever there's issues, you know where you're going to resolve that issue. It's not as you start troubleshooting everywhere, where you know that what you're looking for is just beside you. So that's why we're doing a reverse engineering process, just to make sure that you have those lost data available for you to use for operations and maintenance. So
All
regardless of
right,
the
thank you, sir.
system, yeah, you just need to do it. If you don't have any, you just have to do it. Yeah. So okay, so any question? Okay, guys, please. I don't know if you have any question. It's a really one privilege to be with the entire team of the FMMC 22. Like I said, my name is Uzo Akudo. I'm also a facility management specialist. I deal with fire safety, engineering, and many more. And also a consultant too. So, should you have any questions, always feel free. That's why I've tried to share some template of key process document for you guys to use on your site. Just modify it to suit what you want to do, so that it's more easier for you to fast track and also monitor your own process too on site. Because that's why we're here. We are growing the network. So thank you so much, and
Thank you very
hopefully,
much.
yeah, hopefully we'll meet in person.
Thank you, sir.
No
Yeah,
problem. Thank you,
Want me
yeah.
sir.
to
Have
read
a
it
lovely night.
very well to
I want to confirm
understand.
for
Thank you,
the
sir.
material you said you share. Are you dropping it on the chat or
No,
you will drop it?
Barakat is my madam. She would help me out.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you, sir.
All right, yeah. Take care.